Are we live? Are we live?
Are live. We're in the house. How are you, mate?
Awesome. How about yourself?
Good.
Yeah?
Good.
Yes, it seems like your head is kind of leaning forward a little bit. Is that from all the weight of your...
From the bed?
Oh, hang on.
Hang on. What's happening at your end? Oh, the audio started on the YouTube. Yeah. Hey, Scott, how are you? So you've joined us on the call today. We've had a few folks message in. Who else got? Greg Caves with us.
How do I do this?
Gary Pope, how are you, mate?
You would think I know what the hell I'm doing by now.
Eric.
You would think I would know what the fuck I'm doing by now. Clearly, I do not.
We've got a bunch of people joining us today, and I see on the PowerUp Live question link, we've had a bunch of questions come in the past week.
Cool. I see we got Z Power Driver out there, still envious of his motorcycle.
Yeah, he put a photo up in the chat group there.
Very cool.
And Norm Young, he's out. He's on audio only, and he's out having a bike ride himself right now.
Oh, nice.
Sent a photo of the road ahead on the WhatsApp channel. I don't know if you saw that. Manda, how are you?
Oh yeah.
You see that?
Very cool. Yeah.
That WhatsApp's a good way for people to chat or share links, right? When YouTube seems to block all the links being put in the chat.
Yeah, are you able to put the WhatsApp in the show page for people to go to, or how are they finding it? Are we just dropping a note in?
Hang on a second, I can do this. It's a miracle of technology. I'm sure I can work it out.
Exactly. See, there we go. Mandar's wanting to know how to get in it.
Okay, let's type this here. Let's HTTP:/. There's no S's. I know that. What's it called? Bitly. Come on, guys, please.
Pound PowerUp Live. I don't know how that works.
Oh shit, that's not working.
Oh, Z Power Diver. God, sorry. I keep saying driver.
No, it's diver. He's a scuba diver.
All right.
It's Eric from Canada.
I know, it makes so much more sense now. All right. So what's been happening this week, Mark, to talk about? I wrote a post that was originally intended to be something else, but then I just kind of got annoyed.
I was just looking here, Dynamics Weekly, number 133. So this is Guido, fellow MVP. Actually, interesting with Guido, right? He's Italian,
right?
But he's located in Wuhan, China. That's where he lives.
Yeah.
Which of course is where the epicenter, we're told, for the COVID virus or coronavirus came from.
Wait, I thought it was the U.S. Army that started that.
So hang on. I'm just trying this. And so his email came out, which it does on a Monday. Not sure if folks, okay, there we go. I'm going to put it in the chat window there. There's the WhatsApp URL. If you want to jump in and ask questions or share links directly with us, that's where you can do it. So Guido's been writing this newsletter for some time, and he basically distills all the news in the past, week going on in the community. And I see number one article this week is walking the talk. Did Microsoft AppSource work for an ISV solution? MVP Steve Mordue shares his experience with the platform. So what's this all about? I haven't read it. What's it about?
I know I'm frequently listed on Guido's stuff, but not always as the first one. I've been beating that AppSource drum for a while.
You're probably the most drum beating beater of the app source.
Well, and I've also been beating my head against app source for a long time.
Yeah.
It's just such a constant source of frustration. And the thing that's frustrating about it is the potential that exists
Yeah.
in Microsoft business applications if they embraced that marketplace, but it continues to have a revolving door of leadership that doesn't know nobody knows anything about a marketplace. It just continues to disappoint.
Yeah.
And I've continued to put energy and effort into it in hopes that all of a sudden, somebody's going to get a hold of that and go, hey, we should make this something successful, but it hasn't happened yet. And I remember my days with Salesforce, and I remember, which I mentioned in the blog, I remember the Salesforce, they do all their own demos, right? They don't need partners to do it. They have their own direct sales team that works for them, that goes, meets customers, does demos, which is one reason why they always were able to kick Microsoft's ass, because, for the most part, a partner goes in who Dynamics is one of the things they do. They don't really know Salesforce that well, whereas Salesforce, part of what Salesforce people have to learn in their sales training is everything that's wrong with Dynamics.
Yeah.
So they can speak to that, whereas a typical Dynamics partner going in a Salesforce compete can't really say jack shit about Salesforce. They don't even know the platform. So it's almost like shooting fish in a barrel. But one of the things they've always been kind of famous for, in my mind, is going into a demo of their platform with a ton of third-party IP on it.
Yeah.
They will literally, if this is a medical transcription services opportunity, we're going to go find medical transcription services IP in our app source catalog, and we're going to go demo Salesforce with this thing on it.
Yeah.
And the customers looking at that going, that's just what we need. This is amazing.
Yeah.
Well,
custom built just for us.
This looks really awesome, but I still have the call with Microsoft next. So we might get back to it. And then the Microsoft guy shows them out of the box Dynamics sales. So we can customize it. That's it. Game over. You just gave it to Salesforce because Salesforce leads with their IP. They lead with their third-party vertical solutions. What kind of business are you? Okay, great. We'll do a demo next Tuesday. They're going to spend the next 4 days putting together, spinning up a demo version and putting some vertical IP on that thing. And they're going to lead that conversation with that. And the customer is not necessarily made aware at that point, because it's not even important at that point, where Salesforce stops and the IP begins. They're just looking at, this is Salesforce, and wow, is this ever targeted to my industry or what? And they kill it with that. That is their primary sales motion. For anything of any significance is we're going to show them verticalized demonstration of this application. And Microsoft doesn't do that. They don't do that. They just, here's our app and here's a bunch of partners that'll customize it for you.
Yeah. I've definitely been, I can think of twice in my career, I've been in those situations in the Salesforce compete and just seeing a totally tailored Salesforce that I knew wasn't Salesforce vanilla at all. And of course, Microsoft, but that's not Salesforce, it's that plus. But the customer says Salesforce up in the address bar. It looks exactly like the way our business runs. Thank you, we want that.
Yeah, exactly. The customer doesn't understand licensing. They don't understand all these things at that point. And to try and make a case, well, that's not all Salesforce. There's also some third party involved. They don't even know what that means. They don't know anything except they showed me an app that looks ready to go for my business. And you didn't. That's all they know.
Yeah. And they gave me a price. They made it totally upfront that was all included. And
it wasn't. But I'm already on the path now. Oh yeah, no, they were definitely also very good at playing the pricing games.
Yeah.
So what would this application cost me? Well, Salesforce will cost you X dollars a month per user, without mentioning that, oh, but what I showed you also includes a bunch of expensive IP that you'll have to work out with that vendor.
Yeah.
They were definitely famous about that. But once that customer saw a solution to their problem already 99% baked, I mean, or they're looking at what Microsoft shows them, which is like the ground floor basement of an empty building. Yeah, I'm sorry. There's the conversation just stops. Just stops.
Yeah, so true, so true. What have you had any feedback for once again your interview with Alyssa? I see she started to promote your interview with her.
Yeah, she actually tweeted it out a couple of minutes ago, looking for feedback. So if anybody's listened to that and has some feedback, here's your chance to give it directly back to Alyssa. Maybe you want to complain about the product naming or something, or ask a little bit more information about this PowerApps versus PowerApps, which I'm hopeful the timing is, you're going to be talking to her soon, aren't you?
I'm talking to her tomorrow. I'll get an interview lined up tomorrow with Alyssa.
So
And,
hopefully that's
yeah.
enough later that she's bound to be able to speak more about it, because I talked to her, 3 weeks ago?
Yeah, I'm going to say to her,
weeks.
I was listening to Steve Mordue's interview, and you mentioned,
That it was
PowerApps
too
and
early to
PowerApps.
talk about this. How about
Yeah,
now?
just wondering if it's something we can talk about, and yeah, let's have a chat on it. What else did I get?
She's a pretty decent interview.
Yeah.
I mean, she's marketing, right? So she knows exactly what to say, how to say it to keep out of trouble. Not necessarily as fun as somebody like Charles, or somebody who you can kind of lure down a hole and get him to say stuff he didn't want to say. She's way too sharp for that. Way too sharp for that. She's not.
Yeah, she's
not
well
letting out
trained.
Yeah, not letting out any secrets, even accidentally, from her. She's definitely good at it. But
So after the session last week, we had Dave Newman, and he's from MapTasker in Western Australia there. Got a product they're selling around the world. And he said, just heard that Microsoft update last night is now enforcing the team license. Heard of a number of US companies affected by it. He said, one he knows of, based in Canada, also in the States, trying to get more details, because I asked him for more, because I had somebody on my podcast that's responsible for licensing.
yeah.
And I got to say that my podcasts in my mind sometimes blur, but it was the dude that's actually responsible for creating licensing inside the product team. And I don't think I've launched that podcast. I don't think I've published it yet. And he was the owner of team member licensing and the enforcer of this new system. And I'm pretty sure he told me that they have delayed enforcement till after COVID. Like the COVID-19 had so disrupted so many things in Microsoft, and they didn't want to deal with a whole bunch of issues at this time around, people freaking out. And so I heard they deferred it to later in the year, calendar year.
I thought I'd heard the same thing, but I'm also remembering hearing them talking about putting off the mandatory upgrade to unified interface for the same reason. So I'm wondering if we're conflating the two. I definitely remember they're putting off the unified interface update.
Yeah.
But I think this team member actually doesn't work. It only works in the unified interface. So maybe those are somehow together.
Maybe they're interconnected.
Because the team member enforcement is app level, right? They're able to identify that you have a team member license, therefore you can only use the team member app that Microsoft has created, and it is a unified interface app. So it definitely won't work if you haven't been upgraded. But I don't know about the people that already were upgraded, already were running on unified interface. But I seem to recall they were talking about putting that off too. So I don't know. We've heard a couple of sources out there saying they're hearing about or seeing it being enforced. It might just be a little jump of the gun. And Scott,
Danny said he's got clients on it, and this is in Australia. They're not being enforced. Yeah. I haven't. Yeah, I had definitely heard it had been deferred.
Scott, I wouldn't say that Charles is easy to trick. I think Charles is eager to talk.
Yeah.
There's a difference between being easy to trick and eager to talk. And he's high enough in the organization that he can on the spot decide, I'm going to say something.
Yeah.
That anyone under him could be fired for saying, but he can decide, you know what?
But he owns it.
I own it, so I'm going to say something. So it's not a matter of tricking. He's chomping at the bit to want to tell us stuff. He's just trying to decide in the back of his mind. You can see the wheels turning, whether this is going to cause too much commotion or not. Are we ready to say anything about this or not? But he seems to often come down on the side of, what the fuck, you know?
Yeah.
So he's always a good person.
Frank's asking there, have you received any more emails making claims on revenue share?
Yeah. But I mean, it seems to be a standard form type email. I mean, obviously they're pulling a list of everyone who has not paid them any money. And I think they're just blasting out this form email to everyone that hasn't paid them any money. So we haven't paid them any money. I think I'm going to wait until they get a little more aggressive than they are about a form. I'm sorry, a form email is not enough to kick me into action.
Yeah. There's been a lot of chatter in our back channels this past week around DCI and conferences. And one of our people listening on the show sent me a letter from somebody else going to run a virtual conference. And let me read you this line. First of all, they said, to the receiver of the email, first, I want to take a minute to thank you for your support, the Dynamics, blah, blah, blah. Because of our strong history, I want to let you know the following, which is a lovely way to open a generic email sent to everybody. We saw the need and opportunity to offer a high-quality, professional-produced, Dynamics-based virtual conference. How does anyone see that opportunity these days? Because everybody's fucking doing
everywhere.
Well, maybe is there a gap in the market that nobody else was doing?
Well, maybe I think the key there was high quality. Maybe they're trying to allude that there's a lot of low quality content.
But I'm not seeing low quality content out there. The quality of content and market these days.
I just got my marketing hat on. I got my marketing hat on.
Totally. Yeah. But I just find it so funny because this is a free conference, but there's big sponsorship packages. So it's obviously free to the punter, but once again, they're going after speakers to volunteer their time and speak. They've got sponsorship packages, to make money. And of course, the company behind it is actually a company like a Dynamics Power Platform type partner that are using this obviously as a marketing exercise for their business. And I'm just like,
you know what? I think that is so shady that I'm considering doing it.
So next week we're going to hear Steve Mordue. Rapid Start saw that there was an opportunity to put on a high quality conference.
Yes, exactly.
We've got a call for speakers. So if you've got some time to speak.
Paste it. Yeah, I want to copy and paste the email.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? It's certainly not the first time, won't be the last time that a company out there will go out and promote something as philanthropic for the good of the community, blah, 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 but clearly have a direct ulterior motive to create a funnel out of this philanthropic community effort to build a funnel.
What I found interesting is that all sponsors will get everybody's contact details, blah, 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 when I read into it. And I'm like, I don't know how many privacy issues you're breaching by doing this, unless in the people's sign-up page, they've got something that you hand on heart agree for us to give your email address and contact details to any spammer on the internet.
Probably. I'd also be curious to see the sponsors, because if it's a Dynamics partner really using this for lead gen, well, none of the other sponsors will be Dynamics partners. They'll probably just all be their ISV partners that they already have relationships with. Yeah. People like Click and these people that they already have a relationship with.
Yeah, and it's anybody that wants to get on this get that email list, I'd say. It's once again, it's a marketing, it's a lead or contact generation of a list of contacts to target.
Yeah. What's Frank talking about? Excellent branding video. Glad you dropped the sad music video as the default. What's he referring to there?
I put up, I did. Frank, you're so good, man. Just opening the door to me to do self-promotion. Here I will. I'll jump on my self-promotion a second. So what happened is that my CPM in market here in Australia asked me to do a 15-minute presentation on personal branding.
Yeah, okay.
And then I took that recording, cut out the other speakers, and just took my 20-minute presentation. I ran over a little there, and which is, yeah, just on personal brand. I mean, 15 minutes is hard to get a lot in on personal brand when I often teach, 1-2 hour sessions on it. And so what I did is I made that my default video on the YouTube channel. And so when we went into lockdown, I did a depressed thing about how fuck life was as we were going into lockdown. And so it had very melancholic music behind it. And Frank had said to me, could I change it out some time ago? And so I've done it with this video around how to build your personal brand. Make sense? Have you frozen on me? Dude, you're frozen on me. Look at that. He's got fiber internet connection, and on his part of the world, for some reason, he freezes. Best internet connection in America. Look at that. Nothing. Anyone want to draw a mustache on him? Oh, he's totally gone. How's that? He's left the building. That is nuts. So controversial opinion here, which is why people are so protected of CDS or D365 URLs and screenshots. What's the worst that can happen? So this is talking about, sharing URLs in screenshots. Is there a risk? I take it you can still hear me, right? Yeah, it's just me. He'll come back in. I'll just see. I'll make sure I can let him in because I've got the I don't know what he's dropped off there. Perhaps his internet went down. But anyhow, how many of you would mask out your URL string on when you share a screenshot in a Power App or something? Is there any risk that people could get into your instance or know your instance? I've never heard of anybody having their Power Platform or Dynamics environment hacked. And so what are your thoughts on using in screenshots URLs? Is that something that concerns you? Is it something that you would be worried about? This is something that George Dubinsky raised. And some people said, yeah, NDA for customers, that's a concern. If it's a customer's URL, which, yeah, that's fair enough. Others said, yeah, but if they've used pass at word 1 to get in, it's going to be a pretty easy. Okay, so yeah, for government departments, I can see, yeah, for any clients, I would say more if it's off your demo tenant or something like that. Is there an issue? One of the other things there's been a bit of controversy on in the last week is publicly attacking people in our community on Twitter. And there's been a few cases where other people that are highly active in the community will have a go at other people that are highly active in the community because they don't agree with their way of doing things. Oh, Steve's just hit me up and said his internet, yeah, had a problem. I'll just message him and say, well, we'll wait for him. 1 second. When you're ready. Okay. Let's see if he comes back on. His internet's gone down. So yeah. So what are your thoughts around, do you think it's okay for people to have a poke at others out in the community publicly? But, sometimes I notice that there's now more than ever a bunch of Twitter accounts out there that are hidden. As in, hey, Steve, you're back. We're just talking about people taking pot shots at other people in the community, via Twitter. And just because we don't agree with their opinion, but it kind of sometimes gets personal. Actually, I'll tell you the case in point that I find interesting. So the issue was in this past week. Yep, Danny, here's your example. So what happened? is that Eliza Benitez created she's done a new series of videos that she's been putting out there. And what she did, somebody on Twitter, who I won't mention their name, shared her post. So her URL, her post, just shared it, which is something that I do all the fucking time, right? On my Twitter account, I take some RSS feeds and I embed them as part of my tweet stream to get news out there, I only use 2 specific sources that I do this. And so somebody, once again, I'm not going to out them, on LinkedIn then went to town and said, you should give the author credit and not just share it like it's your own. And I'm like, fuck that.
Who does that?
So
I mean, you're sharing it. If they go to it,
you're sharing the URL. You're not copying the post and putting it on your blog. You're just sharing the URL. Like people, my wife works at Google. People pay good money to have their links shared and traffic driven to their website, right?
I got no problem with that at all for me, by the way. If anybody wants to share my stuff without giving me credit, I'm perfectly fine.
Same here. Share my shit anywhere. And so what happened? People jumped on and said, no, you need to credit the author. And I love this. Like, I always find that George Dembinski, he can come up with just the right way of sharing it. And he jumped on this thread and he said, imagine you're in the pub and you go, man, did you read that article last week about, COVID-19? And you have a chat. Do you go, that was written by blah, 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 a journalist? He was like, shame on you for not mentioning the journalist that made that article and reported on it. And it's exactly true. Like, what the fuck? It's like everyone, I tweeted out and I said, look, we don't have to go around giving each other little handies saying, oh, fuck, I shared your post. Now, share my shit, which is what this whole atting is all about. But what fucks me off is people getting on their high horse and telling other people that they should follow their personal Twitter guidelines around sharing this shit. I'm like, fuck that. You do whatever the fuck you want on Twitter. I'm against plagiarism, but sharing is not plagiarism at all. And we don't have to,
I mean, it's not like they copied the content of the article, put it on their blog post and shared it that way.
This is a crazy thing. The URL said Benitez or whatever she used it. Like, it was quite clearly Benitez content. And so I'm like, I went after the 2 people online. I personally did it, hit them up personally and said, listen, this ain't cool. Like,
wait a minute. Let me get this straight. Are you telling me that there are assholes on social media?
In our community, yes, there's some people that think that they need to be the Twitter police or the community police. And I was like, hang on a second, that ain't cool. And so, but the thing is that, I'm talking about MVPs in this conversation, having their opinions on needing to give, the author some credit in the post. Fuck that.
Well,
you gave the author the URL traffic.
I think we should all be feel very comforted to know that you are policing the policers.
What pisses me off is that they take pot shots as though these people are not human. Yes, they may not talk the way they talk or do things in the community the way they do it. That gives you no right to fucking have a poke at them. Fucking hell. There's one person in particular that I think has got a raw deal in our community, based in the UK, that I just decided enough's enough. And so I didn't out either of these people online, but I did private message them and, just say, come on, this is not the way we operate here.
No, but I'll tell you what, if you're going to put yourself out there social any way at all, you have to be prepared for stupid comments. I get them frequently. There's a couple of folks out there that like to just throw digs at me. And I know Eliza has mentioned before that she gets quite upset when she first saw comments like that against her stuff. It would upset her, but eventually you just get to where, you know what? You just don't give a fuck. You can't give a fuck because there's just, we used to call them trolls, right? So they're still out there. They're still out there. Some of them are hiding behind fake handles. Some
Yep.
of them are using their real name, but either way, I mean,
Yeah, I mean, our
people-
community has got, I think, at least 3 fake handles or known folks operating under pseudonyms on Twitter at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. And some of these are, you know, like inside people that are using it as a way to almost make fun of their colleagues. You know, I mean, we got who's the honest MVP one is
Honest
out
MVP.
there. You know,
Yeah.
it's obviously taking shots at MVPs, which is fine. Hey, you know what? Whenever there's any sort of a exclusive club, which it kind of is,
Yeah.
and people get in somehow in the gate of this club, they like to close the door behind them and then wave and make fun of the people outside of the gate. And that people outside of the gate are not going to appreciate that. And they may or may not be able to get through the gate if they, you know, follow the rules or guidelines, whatever it takes to get in there. But they're certainly our target. You know, anybody that's accomplishing anything at all is going to be a target of anybody who, frankly, probably doesn't accomplish anything. You know.
Yeah.
Oh, look,
So, Danny, I hope that example works. Should you tag people or not? No, I definitely don't think you should. Feel free to, but like, you know, a lot of people are tagging these days. Like I got tagged in a post yesterday out of Norway, which I'll actually bring up the post and just read it to you. And why did I get tagged in it? So here's the post. Let me just jump to it. Here's the post. It says 1 of 6. So this was a post thread, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people were atted in it, and it said, after atting, I was one of the 6. It said, please help with reach. So this individual had tagged me because what they want me to do is retweet it, right? Or retweet with comment because, you know, I've got a bunch of people on my Twitter following audience. And they just said, I have the capacity to let one person learn from me and eventually work with me. Initially, I cannot afford to pay someone while I have them in training, but as that person learns to perform without my input, I will be able to offer a salary. So this is Marius, he's a mate of ours, MVP up in Norway. And so he's saying, hey, I'm offering basically I'd call this an internship. I don't know if that's used in America.
Yep.
He's saying, you can come under my wing. You know, I'm a guru in the space, which he is. He's a brilliant developer. In the space, he's going, you know, I'll input, you know, I would be able to offer you salary once I can start billing you out, which is, of course, fair enough. Your hourly or billed rate. I'd like to offer that capacity to someone who deserves the opportunity, but I can't post a potential job listing that says, look, one non-white, non-binary to work for free. I love it as humor, right? Remote is okay, and you either need to be able to speak Norwegian and or English. So you don't have to be just Norwegian, but you need to be able to speak English if you can't speak Norwegian to a fluent level. And then he's going to give you a decent computer, 0365 license, training material, and pay for any Microsoft exams. That's a bloody good deal, right? If you're currently unemployed. Huh?
It's so funny. It's like he never heard the term internship and instead described this particular role he has, which is essentially an internship. It's exactly what an internship is. He could have saved a lot of words if he just said, I'm looking for an intern.
The thing is, the concept of internship, I think, is an American concept, right? And he's in Norway, Scandinavian country. And so it's not necessarily you know, as I say, the intern is, you know, that Google movie, you know, the internship and stuff. It's a very American centric label that you guys have come up with that I don't think everybody else in the world thinks of. You know, in our country, we'd call it probably an apprenticeship rather than an internship.
Yeah, as capitalists, of course, we are taught from a very young business age to generate as high a profit as possible, and one way you can do that is if you can get a bunch of people to work for you for free. So it's just one of the line items. Get people to work for free, and you're in good shape.
Yeah. So Danny, how would you know that you shared it? Well, unless you like, I don't need to know. The fact that if other people click on it's just driving traffic, I don't need to know that you're sharing stuff. So, but that's a great example, right? He's added me in it because he wants me to leverage my audience and get the message out there. And of course, now I've even done it on this live stream here, which has got that message out. So check out that post by Marius if you know somebody that wants to of course, skill up. But yeah, I see articles from Microsoft folks often that I share, and they don't have individual Twitter handles. I'm not going to try and work out if they do or not. I'm just sharing the article.
Well,
getting
you
it
know
out
what? If you are a generator of content, ultimately the destination is your whatever it is. Your name is on the destination of that content. So you don't give a shit how that thing gets shared. I mean, blast it, bots. I don't care how the stuff gets shared. It doesn't matter to me. I don't go looking to see it because it doesn't matter. I just watch. You can watch the stats in your own website, blog, or something, and see what got shared versus what didn't.
Yeah.
Right off the bat, you can see in LinkedIn. You can see. You got statistics. You already know what's getting passed around. You don't need to know who did it or why. I don't care. Now, what I don't like is when I get tagged in something where somebody's trying to pull me into a conversation that's not relevant.
Yeah. But then I just ignore that.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had a few recently. I don't know if you've ever had this on LinkedIn where someone tags you into a private message and you go to the private message and there's 50 other people being tagged in that private message.
Ooh, no, I haven't had that happen, thankfully.
I've had it happen twice, and there's a function in LinkedIn that says, get me out of this conversation, because it is clearly like a spamming tactic,
Yeah. Well, it's like I don't follow business accounts. I follow people.
Neither.
I don't follow even that many people because I mostly follow tags. I'm less concerned about what particular people have to say than what people are saying about a particular tag. Because if you're going to limit your audience to just people you're following, you're going to miss a whole lot of interesting information about like Power Platform. But if you're following Power Platform, you're going to hear all the people you know.
That's funny that you call it pound. We call it a hash.
Hashtag.
Yeah.
But if you follow that tag, then you get all sorts of interesting content from people you didn't know. And you know what? Just because the people I don't know everything.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's the collective messaging is great, but it's I suppose everybody's use of social media, as long as it doesn't step on, as in it's not abusive to other people, I think is okay. Like everyone has their own way of doing it. A lot of people wonder, like, why do and I had people comment, I do a podcast and then I will do at least 5 tweets on that podcast over the next 5 days. And I do it because I've researched it, and research tells me on this is that nobody comes and just goes and looks at your entire tweet stream, right? They don't see all that. They'll see one of those tweets unless you're somebody that's absolutely chewing on everything that I'm posting. You're only going to pop in, you like why it's called a water cooler. You go in, you have a listen, you look at the few tweets that are top of your stream right now until you're bored, and then you're gone. And so the reason I offset and I do 5 different slots over 5 days is that I'm knowing I'm targeting different people in different time zones that are listening at that point. Now, I would never do that on LinkedIn because the model of LinkedIn is I only do 1 post for an article on there. And the biggest benefit somebody can do to me on LinkedIn is share that article, because it means it goes into more feeds.
Yeah.
But I don't really want to be creating multiple posts on the same topic on LinkedIn. I don't think there's any benefit in that.
So I'm similar, and I probably got this from talking to you. I'll automatically, when I publish a post, it'll automatically post once to LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And then it'll go out to Twitter, but then it goes into my little thing that'll automatically repost to Twitter.
Yeah.
And it kind of grabs posts over the last 60 days, kind of random. and
Yep.
throws them back out on Twitter on a fairly continuous basis. But if I haven't written much in the last 60 days, then it starts looking a little odd because you keep seeing these same 2 or 3 posts from me all the time, if anybody wants to know. And I'll have people every now and then say, why, I keep seeing the same post from you? Well, you know what? Every single time it goes out, new followers show up.
Yeah.
So maybe you're not following enough people if you're seeing my shit all the time.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, that probably says more about how many people you're following than how often that I'm posting. Because, like you say, these things hit a stream, and it's called a stream for a fucking reason, because it goes
Yeah.
by. It goes by. If they don't happen to be standing by the stream when you go by, they're not going to see it. So you gotta keep throwing it back to the top of the stream.
Yeah,
until
and
they see it.
that's the nature of Twitter. Now it's interesting because I think Jack's the guy's name, the CEO of Twitter, has said this past week they're releasing a feature that will do a interrupt in your share of a URL if they have seen that you haven't clicked on that URL before sharing it.
How would they know that?
Well, cookies. So what doesn't take into account? So what, basically the reason for doing it, why they're wanting to do it, is people sharing fake news without reading it. They see a title and they share that link without looking at the content.
Yeah.
Keyboard warriors, they take the clickbait and bang that information out there without actually looking at the underlying article behind it. So who knows whether this will
Well,
start.
I get it too, because I mean, what that encourages is a clickbait. I mean, if you know that there is a significant amount of the population that will retweet a title without opening the content at all, and so it's become kind of an art form of getting content, broadly broadcast, is having a title that will cause people to share just the freaking title.
Yeah.
But it seems to me like the downside of that is you get a whole bunch of people sharing the title and nobody actually looking at the fucking content.
Well, this is the thing, right? So, I've had my fair
I don't know
share.
if I have a problem with that.
I've had my fair share of haters on Twitter, and it was off title. So I did a title that said, "Show me the money." Right, Jerry Maguire about how to become an MVP. Show me the money.
Yeah.
Well, fuck, did I get the hate mail from all the MVPs out there that are holier than thou and don't make any money off being an MVP and shit like that, which ultimately got me
How
bounced
dare
up
you?
for disciplinary action,
Yeah, how dare you? How
because
dare
I'm
you
like,
even suggest that there's a
did you
monetary
watch the
advantage?
fucking video and the video series that it's a part of and get context, or did you just get pissed off at my Jerry Maguire quote?
Yeah.
And get on your high horse about it? And people do that, right? They'll take a headline, and I've done it on purpose. I mean, I wrote that post around a year ago around, white males, middle-aged males need not apply for Ignite to be a speaker. And of course, all these people jump on agreeing with me, and then all the haters disagreeing with me. And if they'd read the article, they would see that I did a bait and switch in what I actually said in the article. But it's kind of like people just take those titles, misinterpret it, and don't actually read the content behind it.
Since we're kind of on the conversation of marketing, because I mean, I'll use some titles. I mean, clickbaiting to me is that you write an alluring title to get people to come to a piece of content that isn't even anything to do with that.
Yeah, so that's not, it's definitely not clickbait. Oh, sorry, it is clickbait, but it's not bait and switch.
Yeah, it's not bait and switch. So I would probably be guilty sometimes of doing clickbaiting.
But it's not, what do you mean? The whole thing is like any marketing message is that you've got a second to pique the audience interest and get them in, right? Any type of marketing, whether you're watching a TV ad or anything, what's the first thing a typical TV commercial does? It rakes a bunch of shit around how bad things are and then how their product solves how bad shit is.
I'm actually just looking at the landing page for the blog because it has on the left side kind of a list of a bunch of the posts with the titles, just to see how badly I might have done some of that. So I got a couple. Microsoft's partner network needs an enema.
Yeah, brilliant.
Microsoft to partners, quote, the free rides are over. That clearly got quite a few partners to poke in. I mean, there was all stuff in there.
Yeah.
Are you brave enough to ask your customers how you're doing? Um, I mean, it's not, I said dead is a strong word. That
Oh, that
was actually my
I think
response.
you're taking a poke at one of my posts for that one.
That was my counterpoint to one of your posts. Yes, indeed. I guess that's as far back as I show the history.
I
But
tell you what, when I said Dynamics is dead, Dynamics is dead, what I said that a year and a half ago, how many times has that come up since? It's been amazing, the number of folks that was like, yeah, perhaps you're kind of right in what you're saying there. Like, Power Platform is definitely the future of where things are at.
oh, frankly, I think they already would have killed the whole Dynamics 365 brand were it not for them wanting to validate you. They just don't want to validate your saying. So they're having these meetings saying we should kill the brand, and I can see James and Alyssa going, nope, we're just not going to let Mark have that one. We're not going to let him have it. We're going to hang on to it for a little while longer until that's far enough in the rearview mirror. Then we'll do it because, yeah, we
But
don't
the
want
thing
to.
is, it'll never be far enough in the rear vision mirror because there's so many people in the community that have long memories.
There is. It is interesting though to see. Um, I don't see them moving away yet from the brand. I mean, I see them creating more brands in Power Platform and more noise in Power Platform, but I don't see them diminishing or downplaying that D365 branding yet. I think there's a
They can't.
clear, yeah, I think there's a clear forked strategy here.
Yep.
And
Here's the thing is, right? America is often like when I, being based in the bottom of the world like I was for so long before I traveled, is that New Zealand were always about 4 years around adoption after America had been perceived as adopting. Australia about 2 years, I felt. And so what would happen is that you come out with Power Platform, the market doesn't know about this. Us in the community hear about it, and of course we're all converted and we're over to it. The actual customer base, it takes them 2 to 3 years to hear that stuff before they start adopting this technology. We think it's been around forever because we've been living and breathing it forever. So therefore, if you take Dynamics 365, that's a brand that Microsoft have 15 years of investment in. That's a well-known thing. This is why I blows my mind that they move Office 365 to Microsoft 365, because everybody knows what Office 365 is. It's
why?
it's a well-known established. Sometimes then you go, is a marketer just kind of mixing stuff up because they want to? But Dynamics is a well-established brand, and Microsoft took a long time to come out of the shadow of that they do biz apps, that I don't think they're going to turn around and can the Dynamics 365 moniker just yet.
They announce these products globally, right? I mean, New Zealand would have heard the message about Power Platform at the same time that we did.
Yep.
And you look at, well, we're 2 or 3 years or 4 years behind the US, but the US is, a million times bigger.
Yeah.
So if you looked at the percentage of US companies that have adopted the Power Platform, I'd be surprised if it's much higher than the percentage in New Zealand. It's just a hell of a lot more numbers, but the percentage, it still takes a very long time. And I know that's frustrating for Microsoft, and frustrating for Alyssa, Charles. It takes a long time to create a new brand, particularly in enterprise, and have that land where people understand it, particularly when you're trying to land it next to one of your other brands that you've been, like you say, promoting for 16 years. And the result is just chaos. I mean, the customers don't, I'm talking to them I was on a phone call this morning with yet another customer. No concept of how any of this stuff, what the hell's going on. The only reason he's even considering Microsoft for business applications over Salesforce is because they have Office 365, and it seemed like something they should at least explore.
Yeah.
But this guy, from his own exploration, it's an IT guy, he didn't seem like a dumb guy. From his own exploration on the Microsoft sites, talking to him, it's clear that he had, not only did he not understand it at all,
Yeah.
but he understood it wrong. He understood it incorrectly. So he got, he not only didn't have, didn't have a good understanding, but the information he had was wrong. He just had, they've done just a very bad job of doing this. I think it's moving. They're trying to move very fast. I get that. It's a competitive world out there. They're trying to tackle, we used to compete, at least with Dynamics 365. We're competing with Salesforce, right? That was the 800-pound gorilla that we were all focused on, was Salesforce, Salesforce, Salesforce. But then when they kind of pulled in this Power Platform direction and started pulling things into it, like Microsoft Forms. Well, Microsoft Forms doesn't compete with Salesforce, but it competes with a dozen other fucking forms companies.
Yeah.
Power Automate competes with a dozen other fucking automation and every product they launch, all this insight stuff, all these things are just multiplying the number of companies that they're now competing with in the marketplace, where before it was pretty clear we were competing with one.
Yeah.
So that's a challenge, because you're being attacked by all of those companies. I mean, if you sit in on a phone call with any of these low-code development platforms and Power Platform comes up, it reminds me of the Salesforce conversation. They know all about us. They can shoot holes in everything, and we give them plenty of ammo, because I still think the whole Power Platform is about 90% baked. There's still lots of wiring left to do. Charles even acknowledged there's wiring left to do. That's the focus. But yes, there is wiring left to do. And until the wiring is done, every other competitor is going to point at the fucking wiring that isn't done.
Yeah.
And you're entering spaces where the people have been in for a long time.
Yeah. And it's like in war, right? If you're going to hit on all fronts, you're going to lose on all fronts, right? Because you're not focused, you're not carving that piece out. Interestingly enough, another area, this week I released a podcast with Muhammad Alam.
Yep.
And we talked at length around Dynamics 365 commerce. And particularly since COVID's been in play, how they've had a massive upswing in demand for it. And we talked about fraud protection, of course, fraud protection, as well as product insights and even customer insights, are all products built out of Microsoft internal use.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
They've been big parts of Microsoft running its business, and they've made them commercially available. Their internal IP is these products. So I get those. But commerce, I just think, is a massive, massive opportunity for Microsoft, because it's much more than just e-commerce software. It goes right down to, checkout software, like the on-prem, off-prem, or clicks and mortar, and digital commerce come together in that product. I think it's if I was putting money on an area right now, if I was starting my career, apart from, learning the Power Platform and everything, I would be looking seriously at commerce. I think that has legs for real massive growth over the coming years.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to, I haven't listened to that one yet, but I saw it. I'm looking forward to that, because we talked to Muhammad before, and I think he told us at one of the things where we had an interview with him, when one of us asked him what the big thing coming that we should be looking for, commerce was first thing off of his tongue back then. So now it sounds like it's getting real. Microsoft, they can build half-baked shit and push it out to market, because they've got this incredible built-in advantage that they're already in every customer that matters.
Yeah.
They're already in every customer that matters. And there's a gravitation with a lot of these customers that have Office 365 in particular to look first to what does Microsoft have adjacent to this stuff that I have that may already work with this stuff that I have. So I've got this built-in advantage where I know there are customers that are making a decision that, you know what, this product is not as good as a competing product, but it's within the stack, it's within the same admin center. I think they're willing to give Microsoft a pass on some of these broken wires for that convenience factor and momentum. But and that's a huge advantage that Microsoft has. It lets them get into markets they've never been in before.
Microsoft's biggest sales tool is AAD.
Yep, Azure Active Directory. Yep.
The number one sales tool, right? Single sign-on,
Should be.
security. It is one of their key tools because a company goes, it got Office 365. My AAD or Active Directory, if it's on-prem, is hooked into it. Now it's just another, and it's another SKU item, but we don't have to replicate who it is.
Yeah.
Do they have all that kind of stuff is handled. It's a gold mine to them, and it's unfortunate that in China is not part of global AAD, which the rest of the world is, and it only breaks at that China point. But otherwise, you think the entire globe is in this one massive Active Directory.
I mean, one of the best presentations I think I saw recently was Ryan Cunningham, and the conversation was about shadow IT,
Yep.
right? And PowerApps and shadow IT, and talking about the biggest difference between PowerApps and other shadow IT apps. And he popped up the Office 365 login screen. So there you go. I mean, like game, set, match right there. There you go.
You know who logs
you
in.
control everything from here.
Exactly.
And now that to people that understand Active Directory, and Azure Active Directory is just the online version. For people that understand Active Directory, that's an instant light bulb going off over their head.
Yeah.
It just kills everything else out there. Just kills everything else out there.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so true. So true.
Do we have any
so
comments? Yeah, we got about 4 minutes left. Let's see if we have any questions here from some folks, because we've been chatting and I haven't been looking. Still talking about tagging.
Interns are paid in England, according to Cheryl. That's good. Same in Canada, according to Norm. You know what? When I started my first business in this space, I took on, I think, 6 interns unpaid for 6 months. And I put them through all their training, all that kind of stuff. I had offices and had them come in. There are folks now that have been in their career. And like, by the way, when I took in interns, these were interns that hadn't been to university. These were 16, 17-year-olds out of school. I had a bunch that dropped off, it was too hard work for them. But the ones that stuck it now are, I'm thinking of some here in New Zealand. They're absolute gurus in this space. When they blog stuff, it gets recognized all over the world that went through that program, right? And they have had careers now that are, they're over 10 years now in the space of those original interns I took in. So I think it's a great way to actually give people a head start that don't have any other means to. And one guy that I'm thinking in my mind, I remember his parents coming to me and said, he'll never go to university. He's just not wired like that, and he's not, not doing necessarily that well at school. And yet in this space, he is accelerated to become an absolute guru.
It's a numbers game, I think, with interns. A lot of them are going to just get job experience, not particularly an industry, just job experience. They're going because it's a requirement of their degree. They're going for different reasons. But, you get a bunch of interns come in, and, some of them are going to resonate with what you're doing and decide, what, this looks like a potential career path, So it's definitely a numbers game with them. And
I'm surprised I haven't had more people ask to be an intern for me.
Well, you got your mentoring challenge, which is free, so they're all getting their mentoring that way.
Yeah, true. But
you're doing that again next year, right?
I'm surprised people haven't. Yeah, I'll do it again next year. Haven't wanted to check out like how I do social media and how I do all these things by becoming part of it. I do every now and again get some, but they're not in the biz app space. And I don't even want to intern people that are really serious about getting a career in the space. But also to put an internship program on, it's a lot of work. People think it's like, oh yeah, you're getting free resource. It's a lot of work to flip and train people and make sure they're busy and they've got stuff. And It's not just something, it's not free by any stretch.
No, you're getting a bunch of people that don't know anything. You know, they don't even understand. A lot of them won't even understand working, you know, much less what it is you're asking them to do.
So true, so true. Steve, it's been great chatting with you. Our
It
time is up.
has,
Thank you to the audience once again for joining us in today's live stream. Remember, use that URL on WhatsApp to flick us through any questions. If you spot anything in the market that you want us to chat, just flick us an email or private message us on any of our channels, and we will discuss
tell your
it on
friends
here
about
next
the
time.
show. We'd love to grow the audience a little more, but we're way too lazy to do that effort ourselves.